within the same like 24-hour span, I had lost my car, my job, my apartment, everything. I was going about 110 miles an hour, you know, down the I-10 going to Louisiana. And an 18-wheeler had just completely annihilated it. Spun out, but we were so fucked up that we were like, dude, we got to Uber the rest of the way to the casino, because in our head too, we're like, we got to keep the night going. Like, dude, you just spiral control, could have died, you know, killed 2 others.
Sure.
Oh no, it's fine, let's just keep going. 2-foot, you know, thick doors were opened up by codes, and you have to like be checked in. And why would this make me want to get sober? These people look like they hate their lives. Relapsed 2 weeks after I got out. Like immediately, I was just like
yeah,
no, this ain't working. The biggest trigger for me, funny enough, was when I was by myself. Truthfully, no one's coming to save you. You know, people can give you maybe a few tools that might help you, but at the end of the day, you have to want them.
So Zach, your addiction that you had or have, the 12 steps didn't work for you. The traditional recovery did not work for you, but you found something else that does work for you.
Definitely.
So tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, we can start in the beginning.
Yes, please.
So my story kind of starts off as just a typical story of somebody who, I mean, my family life was decent. I grew up, I went to college. I'd started drinking pretty early on, like 15 years old. But I mean, just as like a lot of people do in high school. Kind of got into that scene, started drinking a bunch. I ended up, you know, going to college, doing that whole thing, fraternity life, all that good stuff. So I was drinking. I mean, that's when I was first introduced to cocaine, when I was 19, which is funny because it was one of the things I was like, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do this. I held out. And then about, you know, a little over a semester in is when I finally caved and tried it. And then it kind of flipped everything. And so that's how it had started. I had found out, actually, it's weird how self-aware I was of what the mixture was doing, which is alcohol and cocaine is cocaethylene. And that was what I was addicted to. For some reason, just the thrill of being able to balance, you know, it's like on Wolf of Wall Street when they're talking about, and they're like, I use this to come up and then balance this to come down.
Sure,
that's how it was. Is I didn't like just drinking, because then I would get to a point where I wanted to be more clear, so then I would use to balance it out. But also I would never touch cocaine sober. I hated it. It would make me just super tweaky. I didn't like it. So I would try to find that perfect balance to embody like a confidence that I didn't have when I was sober, which was really what I feel like deep down I was always chasing, because I was kind of an outsider, like not necessarily an outsider, but I'd say like shy, and I was always trying to like craving that attention and like ways to fit in. But going on to like later into life, at first, you know, you don't really notice the early signs, right? Because it's like, you're in high school, that's fine. You're in college, you're in a fraternity, it's totally fine. Everybody does it. Then after I had actually dropped out of college, I went to...
and where did you grow up in now?
Where did I grow up?
Yes.
I grew up in the Woodlands. It's like North Houston area.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a very suburban area. Typical. There's a lot of money out there and stuff, but it didn't really drive like me, because I didn't even touch drugs when I was in high school, funny enough, which is, you would think there would be a lot around. But yeah, then I became a bartender whenever I dropped out. I did that for about 5 years. And even being in that environment alone too, it was like, you know, oh, everybody's drinking. And also I had always had a very entrepreneurial mindset, right? And I didn't like the aspect of my money was controlled by whoever just coincidentally walked through the door. So I even took initiative. I'd go start my own Facebook group, you know, get people involved like in the community, like at the bar. I'd, you know, get them all in the same group. I'd message in like, hey, this is when I'm showing up. So that at 5:30 every single night when my shift started, I mean, the bar was full. I'd already know in my head I had made, you know, X amount of money.
You're going to have that money already
started off, yeah. But it was little things like that always stuck out, that I was kind of in the back of my head like, is this it? You know, like I feel like I'm showing myself these signs of, hey, the way your brain is turning, you can do so much more. But I was so deep into just being around all the drugs and alcohol, and like even being a bartender, it's super normal.
Was it just cocaine? And
so at that point it was, and then there were these drug dealers that started coming into the bar a lot. It was, hey, I'll give you a free drink, you give me a free bag, you know, it kind of exchanged like that. But it started getting a lot worse, as far as I actually lived right across the street. Like when I say right across the street, like I could see my apartment from the bar. And it's kind of funny because I lived in this bubble of literally back and forth across the street. Even when I wasn't working, I was still coming in there, or just going to the ones down the street to network. So I lived on the same street for probably 5 years. I forgot even like what the outside world
So
was
it's
like.
almost like living in the bar.
Yeah, right, exactly. But yeah, it got to the point where, I started hanging out with these drug dealers more, and they were like, hey, we drive about 30 minutes, to come over here to hang out, to do these drops, all this stuff. How about we'll just pay your rent, just let us stash all of our stuff here. And to me, I was like, okay, cool. At this point too, just to kind of fit in there, I just went through a divorce as well. And so I was kind of in that spiral of like, I had a really hard time maintaining responsibility while like I was addicted, but I'd always done really well for myself, like financially. And so it was like, okay, it's okay because, I'm providing, I'm doing this. But yeah, once that had happened, there was all types of pills, ecstasy, Molly, sheets of acid, everything just sitting in my apartment. And the thing was, hey, we'll pay your rent and you can have access to whatever you want. And so just being surrounded by all of that was just like, it was so consuming. And it just led to, once my thing was always benders. And it's like the second that I start, I'll have one drink. I'm immediately wanting cocaine, but then I do that, but I'm so afraid of the come down that I'll go 2 days, 3 days. I'll find anything to just keep it up. Even when it stops working, like it gets to the point where it stops working.
It's kind of like people who have a drink and they go, oh, I'm going to have a cigarette now. Mm-hmm. They never have a cigarette unless they drink.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Because they're trying to find that balance. It's just like essentially what they're like, that's their sweet spot of like what they like to feel like. But I had gotten to a point where, it was just out of control. I had taken my paycheck one week, and a couple of buddies of ours, we were like, hey, you want to go to the casino? So the Lake Charles Golden Nugget is only like 2-hour drive from Houston. So we got in. I'd already been up for 2 days. I was super drunk. One of the people that we came with had a bottle of Xanax, was like, hey, do you want to take some of this? I wasn't even thinking clearly. Obviously, I've been up for 2 days. And I wasn't even that big of a pill guy, but it was at the point where I was taking whatever. Like,
sure.
Whatever you had, sure, it seems like fun, right? So I took that. I was going about 110 miles an hour, down the I-10 going to Louisiana. And I ended up hitting the sidewall, like the barrier, and it snapped my rotor. My car spun out of control. Luckily, we didn't hit anybody. Nothing happened. Spun out, but we were so fucked up that we were like, dude, we got to Uber the rest of the way to the casino, because in our head too, we're like, we got to keep the night going. Like, we're not going to let this stop us. And that's kind of a crazy thing in and of itself, right? Is like, dude, you just spiral control, could have died, killed 2 others.
Sure.
And it's like, oh no, it's fine. Let's just keep going.
But at least you went into the Uber.
Yeah.
You were
sure.
safe there.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a silver lining there.
Yeah. And so I was like, it's fine. I'll come back the next day. When I came back, my car was missing. And I was like, okay, it's probably the nearest tow yard, right? So we call him up. The lady starts laughing at me. She's like, that's your car? I was like, what happened? She sends me a picture of it, and it's complete. You can't even recognize that it's a car. I'd parked it off the highway, but somebody, I guess, had come up, hit it, and spiraled it into the highway, and an 18-wheeler had just completely annihilated it. And I was just like,
oh, good thing you weren't in the car.
Holy shit, yes. Like, what a blessing. I get back, and I go up to my apartment. I'm ready to just sleep. I'm like, dude, screw this. I actually walked up to an eviction notice that was sitting on my door, my apartment door. I was like, this literally can't get any worse. Like, this is insane. I go inside, and then immediately, I've been up for 3 days at this point, but I was like, now I'm stressing out, because you also have this anxiety that's just setting in as you're sobering up. But I was like, okay, I need to go straight across the street. I need to go into work, tell whoever it is, go home. Like, I need to make money, because like, I'm seriously, that's when I started realizing like I'm fucking up. I go in, manager stopped me a second. I walked in, he's like, hey, like, we're gonna have to let you go. You've been a little out of control. So within the same like 24-hour span, I had lost my car, my job, my apartment, everything.
Just hit you.
Everything hit, and I had nowhere else to go. And I was like, what do I do from here? Like, I have no idea. My parents had previously tried to tell me like, hey, we think you should go to rehab. We think you should go, try these programs and everything. And I was just very like, no, that's not for me. It's, I'm doing good. Like, I'm doing fine. But I
can do it
myself
on my own. I don't need that.
Yeah, exactly.
The denial stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's such a poison to your brain, because I wasn't even realizing that I was spending all my money. Like I wasn't even living in reality where I forgot I was behind on my bills for so
Is
long.
it fair to say an addict would always thinks that they're not an addict?
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. Or you just feel like you're in so much control of every situation. And that was my problem, is like, I can do it. I can figure it out. I can got it. And so I finally decided to check myself into rehab, essentially because I had nowhere to go. I didn't even have anywhere to live. And at this point, you know, everybody's your friend when you're fucked up all the time with everybody, but that's the only thing you have in common. So I had tried to actually ask some people like, hey, do you mind if I like stay with you, whatever? They're like, ooh. Second it got real, I was like, I don't want to, like, I don't want, you know, that's a liability, you know, you're crazy. Like, but you know, they're always hyping you up when you guys are hanging around and drunk and stuff. But so I go to rehab.
You find out who your real friends are when you're in a tough situation.
Exactly. Yeah. But still, even at that point, I still hadn't even recognized. I was living in such a delusional world that I was like, oh, you know, that's fine. You know, it's whatever. So I go to rehab, and it was not what I had expected at all. I mean, it was kind of what I expected, but I got nothing out of it. And I thought it was going to fix me. It was my first, like, you know what? All right. I kind of maybe like need help. I went in there. It was very like, almost like a facility that you see on like, you know, TV and stuff. Like you walk in and there's like a nice looking little lobby, but then you have these, you know, 2-foot, you know, thick doors where open up by codes, and you have to like be checked in and all this kind of stuff. And I was like,
it's kind of like a county jail in a way.
yeah, right. Or it almost felt like a mental health institution or something. You know what I mean? And so I was already like, shoot. So I get checked in there. I go in. My roommate, they had paired us up, and this is a facility. I mean, there's probably 50 people in there at one time, and so you're bunked up with somebody. I go in. This guy's like taking a nap. He wakes up. I was like, hey, I'm Zach. Like, nice to meet you. He rolls over, and I was like, kind of just trying to figure out his story, right? And he was like, oh, I had to come here. I just got out of prison for like a double murder like a long time ago. And I immediately started thinking like, this isn't for me. Like, there's no way that I'm like this bad. I mean, the next day it goes on. I watched a guy overdose on heroin. People were getting like alcohol dropped off there. It was just crazy. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to work it, and I'm just going to like see, you know, what happens. I immediately felt like something was wrong. Funny enough, it seems pretty small, but when I was abstained from drinking, you get sugar cravings that spike really high, and I was eating so much candy, it was disgusting. And that's all I could think about, is I was like, there's got to be a better way to like handle this, because it's like they were just feeding us sugar. It was insane. And then my thing has always been fitness. I feel like that has always been a cry for help to me, is I would go on these cycles where I would stay sober for like, you know, maybe 2 months, maybe 4 months. And it was through the gym. That was where I was like, all right, I'm staying consistent, because my gains were going up and down and up and down, because it was like I would do so well, but then I'd go on a 4-day bender and lose it all.
So now at this point, you're not taking any drugs. What were the withdrawals for you? What was that like?
I didn't get necessarily like physical withdrawals, which is crazy, but with the amount that I was drinking and doing so much coke and all these other drugs, I didn't actually get the physical like withdrawals, which I'm very I'm still kind of confused to this day why that happened.
Because a lot of people do have serious withdrawals. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had to actually learn a lot about that, just based on the industry itself, but also like I didn't know, you know, that like if you withstand from alcohol and it's like it's that deep of a problem, like usually you can get seizures and you can get all these things. And it's, to me, so I did feel kind of blessed, because I was watching everybody around me have these withdrawals, and that was another reason that I was like, I just don't feel like I'm supposed to be here. But I just kept like, I'm gonna stick to it, I'm here. And I was asking them like, hey, do you guys have a gym? That was just always my like go-to of like, hey, this is where I need to start. It was a shoebox of a gym. There was a treadmill in it. There was not really any weight. There was nothing in there. It was just like a, you know,
rudimentary.
Yeah. And so and then these like meetings that we were doing inside there, it was like nothing. I didn't ever get to see a therapist. I didn't get any like, hey, this is what we should do with your life afterwards. It seemed confusing.
Doesn't sound like it was a great facility.
Yeah.
That they offered a lot to people.
Exactly. And it felt off. Like I was like, this doesn't seem right. Like I had no idea about the treatment world. I mean, you see stuff on TV or movies or whatever, but it's like, to me, I just was like, this doesn't seem like it's doing what it's supposed to.
Did they lock you in at night, or was it?
Yeah, so we had to be like in our rooms at certain times. We weren't allowed out. Like I couldn't really like come out and like go get a snack in the middle of the night. It was very like, let's say midnight, like I had to be into bed by like 11 or 12. And then it was like 8 a.m. I would get up and then everything would kind of unlock and they would turn stuff on.
So it sounds to me, again, it sounds to me like that's kind of like jail, if you will.
Essentially, yeah. And this is where my perception of rehab like came into play, because I was just like, this is miserable. So eventually I get out, and I was recommended to, this is the first time I ever saw like any sort of doctor, therapist, anything, was the last 30 minutes before I got out. And they were kind of like bullshit questions, just like, what's going on, like trying to find some like weird deep root cause in my like family life or something when I was growing up. And I was like, this has nothing to do with like, I didn't feel like I gained anything in the last 30 days. Like I was like, I just sat here miserable. Nothing happened. It almost made it worse, where I was like screaming to just like, dude, I got to get out of here.
Well, the
like,
industry that you were in, you were in the alcohol, industry, okay? And when there's alcohol, there's other things, as you noted. And a lot of people who are in that industry, become addicts because that's what they're there for. They're there to help people party and stuff like that. So you become, a lot of them fall into that. And the same with restaurant people. They'll go and they'll work late at night in New York. I know many of them. And then after the restaurant closes, they'll go out and they'll party till 5 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, that was the cycle, right? So that's how I made my money. When I wasn't working, I was at other people's bars. Hey, you hook me up, I'll hook you up. I get tips here. I mean, we're working till 2, 3 in the morning. So after that, the only time we have to party is, hey, let's go to strip clubs. Let's go do all these things till 5, 6 in the morning. I mean, you're always at some random person's house. It's like, when you're on drugs and alcohol, every age group, every like demographic, nothing, everything's out the window. It's just like, where's the drugs at? Where do we end up? You end up in just the craziest places. Like, I mean, it can be a Sunday night, you're doing a bunch of blow all night long, and then you wake up Monday morning, all of a sudden you got 4 people that are just so out of their mind, and they're like, let's just fly to Vegas. And it's just the most irrational like thought. We all have work, we all have like, there's just, all responsibility goes out the window. Sure. You just want like, what's the next thing we can do? But when I had gotten out of rehab, I was like, okay, maybe I'll go try these meetings, right? I go, and this is a big part of like why I felt like I needed to do what I do now, which I'll get into. But I went to these meetings, and it was a very just dull, dark environment. People talking about, hey, hey, I'm sober, but just didn't seem very excited about it. It was just a very depressing. And so from going from that rehab experience to a very dull and depressing, no excitement around being sober.
Vanilla.
Yeah, it was just very like, it was just a random little place they rented out in like a strip center. There's just, little metal chairs set up in an empty building, like kind of a thing. And I was just like, why would this make me want to get sober? These people look like they hate their lives. And so, I mean, I had relapsed 2 weeks after I got out. Like immediately, I was just like, no, this ain't working. I don't know. These people are just
right.
Oh, and I forgot to even mention too, the rehab I was at, they were like, hey, you should go to this, the halfway house, the midway point, sober living or whatever. It was on the crack corner in the 5th Ward of Houston. So I was just like, what is this location? You're putting us right next to where all these drugs are sold.
I'm sorry, this rehab place wasn't really a rehab place. It's more like a prison.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going from there to a halfway house afterwards. That's exactly what happens if you're in prison.
Yeah, and so it's like you can understand the perception now that was in my head of like,
I mean, how do you want to even help yourself in that type of environment?
Yeah, and so, I mean, the biggest thing it left me with is I was just hopeless. I was like, you know what, I'm screwed. This is like, there's no way out of this. I don't know how people get sober. And then so I had pretty much just...
You relapsed?
Yeah. So I relapsed. Then from there, had went into just like a very, very toxic relationship, but didn't make things any better. So my mental, like... capacity was already thin, and then I went into this, and now I'm like dealing with mental manipulation and all these different things at the same time. Just a very, very toxic from the get-go. But I think I was just like craving, like, I don't know, attention or just something from somebody who seemed established, which like she was at the time. And so I was like, okay, if this person believes in me, then like awesome, right? And so I went through that, and it just made things so much worse because I was just like constantly just stressed out and like trying to live up to this like standard now of like, and there's just so much pressure and all these things. And I was just like God. And so I literally took a job like on purpose, like to go into the door-to-door industry to get like to these markets that were across the country because I don't know, I didn't know who I was anymore, and I couldn't even walk away from the relationship I was in. I had no self-respect, I had no dignity, no nothing. And then when I had got back, and basically we had went through a breakup, and it was like what you think like heartbreak is at the time, but it really like wasn't. It was just like a very toxic thing that was going on, and so
So
it's
it must
like,
have been a big relief.
yeah. So that's the thing is like it was so much like codependency, and it was just this weird dynamic. But for some reason, it gave me the clarity to get away from everything, and I was like, I need to, which a lot of people would say this is probably like the worst thing you do, but I was like, I need to isolate myself. Like I have to get out of here. Because to me, it was, I'm in this environment of 20 years of all these people I know, I know I'm literally getting like, you're buying so many drugs sometimes that you're getting like prospected by drug dealers. Like, hey, got this. Hey, I'm in town. Hey, I'm 5 minutes down the road. Hey, like I'll give you this for this much. Like, and
Well,
so
you
it's just
knew them all
constant.
from the industry.
Yeah. And so I had moved up to Dallas, like way north Dallas. It was a house like out in the middle, new development, like out in the middle of nowhere. And I, at this point, didn't have a car anymore, which I had ended up so the tail end of that relationship, I got my car repoed because I was just trying to live up to this like fantasy world of like, everything was just going downhill. But the isolation and without the car, it kind of forced me to sit with my thoughts. One thing that I was always, I feel like doing was I was never still, and I was always just trying to move and distract and like be somewhere else to just take my mind off of, because the biggest trigger for me, funny enough, was when I was by myself. I couldn't last maybe 10 minutes before I would pick my phone up and just, I would message 100 people. It didn't matter who it was. Like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, are you out? Are you going out? Like whatever. It could be somebody I had met maybe one time for 10 minutes, try to find them on Facebook, whatever. I could not sit with my thoughts at all. And so it forced me to really sit there and like realize like, yo, like something's got to change. Like that was the big thing is, I don't know why I was running from my thoughts for 10 years. Cause it just kept stacking and getting worse and worse. And I was just a person that I hated. I had no real confidence. I felt like all my friendships were based off of going out, but I didn't have, the balls to sit there and be like, hey, I don't want this for myself anymore. So it was when I'd isolated myself, it basically forced me to, like, let's say I was saying those drug dealer texts, right? Oh, I don't live there anymore. Or if it was the friends that wanted to hang out, oh, I don't live there anymore. But then I slowly started learning, like almost like confidence of like, okay, like it's okay to say no, because that was my problem. I felt like I always said yes. I always felt like I had to be everywhere. I had to, I had this weird thing where I just like couldn't turn down an invitation to something, even if it was for ill intent. It was really weird. And then I didn't know what to do. I was like sleeping on a couch in Dallas and had nowhere to go. And then it just, I was like, yo, what do you always do in these situations when you're crying for help? Is I went to the gym. So I went to the gym and I was like, this is where a weird thing had happened that I had never experienced before. This is where it started. I started getting this pull of like, almost like an overwhelming, like confidence, in a sense of, all I knew was something was telling me go to the gym and just do it every day and the rest will all work out. And it was, I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I was at rock bottom. I had no money. I had, I owed people money. I had no car, no nothing. And it was like, just go to the gym and everything will work out. I promise you. Like, that's just like a voice that I like kept hearing. Sure. And I didn't know if it was my conscience because I wasn't religious. And so I was like, I don't know what this is. So I started doing it. I started just slowly like stacking these wins, right? I started falling in love with just walking in the morning. Like I would just look around. I would try to like make sure, even sometimes I would turn music off, but I couldn't even afford my phone bill. So when I left the Wi-Fi that was at the house, I couldn't even receive text, but it made me like be present. And I started looking around and like the smallest things like would do this dopamine release. And I relate it to when I was a kid. And it was the first time I think in like, 10, 12 years that I had felt that just pure happiness of like when I was a kid, of just the most simple things, just right. Running around outside, throwing a football, no phones, no nothing. And I was like, oh, wow. So I just started walking like every day. I was like, this is incredible. And one thing just led to another. I started going to the gym any way I could. Like any money that I had, I would put it into, like, if I had $30 to my name and it was the Uber was $25, you know, the round trip to go to the gym. I was like, I'll just figure out how to eat like another time or whatever, or I'll live off ramen. You know what I mean? I'd done it in college before. I've been like broke before. It's fine. So I would just invest any money I had into any way just to get to the gym. And it slowly started stacking. And then, you know, what was funny is the discipline and the routine of like doing that every day. It slowly started spilling over. Like I started grounding myself more. It was like my confidence kind of started growing. And it was a truer confidence that I had never felt before, which led me to be able to like apply for jobs that I had really not applied for before. And, you know, so I got the sales gig in the tech world, but I was put into like a strategic enterprise space.
You found a way to put structure and discipline into yourself.
Exactly. So this is like when I really started realizing, because to make a long story short, the buckets started they started filling up themselves through what I had seen was the discipline and the structure and building the habits of just showing up even when you don't want to into the gym. And, you know, I started taking my life more seriously, and I was like, wow. And then it was like my job started kicking up. My relationship started getting better with people. I naturally started becoming more honest when I was like really sitting there and just like working on myself, because I started to not hate who I saw in the mirror anymore. And so it's almost like reframing. I started getting addicted to the progress in the right direction.
Sure.
Where I was like, you know, it was delayed gratification.
You found a healthy addiction.
Exactly. And it felt good. So I was like, you know, wow, this is taking forever. But I had that weird voice where I was like, you know, let it just do its thing. And so I kind of just started falling in love with the journey. Right. And it just started opening up. I feel like the energy that you put in is like what you get out of people too. And so naturally the like authentic frequency that was coming off of me, it was like, I felt like it was resonating with people around me. You know, I started seeing opportunities more, and I just started wanting to seize them. You know, and as everything stacked up, I got my new coach.
You had a clear mind now.
Yeah.
Your mind was clear.
To this day, I am still waking up and piecing together things that are like coming full circle. I can think better. I can just think clearer. It's just such an incredible thing. And I get like so excited getting to this point, because it's so hard for me to describe like how blessed and like amazing I feel. And I never thought I would get here. Like I really didn't.
I know a few people who are addicts, and they found their way of leaving, stopped being an addict, if you will, through working out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, working out is so therapeutic in so many different ways, and it helps you, as you know, build your confidence.
Mm-hmm. And I'd also started doing kind of research into like the brain, and I had found the anterior mid-cingulate cortex is a part of the brain that handles all your decision making and your discipline and everything. And I had found out that it actually starts growing when you do these hard things that you don't want to do. You know, whether it's eating when you don't want to, you know, the correct meals, or going to the gym, or cold plunging, or just making certain decisions in day-to-day life whenever you just really don't want to. I mean, even as small as like, damn, I really just don't want to like hang the clothes up, or I don't want to do the dishes. Like doing it in that moment became like such an important thing to me. Because I had associated with like, all right, I'm getting stronger, like my brain is growing. But to tie in, I had taken all this, and I had felt this pull of like, I had people that looked up to me in the past. I had kind of had imposter syndrome. I never really thought about it. But even when I was drinking and stuff, like people did kind of look at me as like not like an authority figure, but even with that fake confidence, I had noticed that, you know, some people had kind of seen me as a role model in the weirdest way. I don't know why, because I was such a wreck. But I guess I was good at making it seem like I had it together. And so I thought, I was like, I'm just getting this calling where everything's starting to come full circle. And I feel like I'm supposed to use this to help other people, because like, I really, really, I know it sounds like you hear those cliche things like, oh, if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's what I really started feeling. I was like, dude, I'm a normal guy. I'm nothing. I was never, you know, I didn't really have like the most tragic of tragic stories. I didn't have like, but, and I was like, I had this pull. I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to, you know, help people with this. And so I started just kind of posting about it. And even then, like, even if it was just one person that came to me And I wasn't good at social media or none of that stuff. And so I was like, just very sloppy posts, but people did start coming. They were like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, you posting about this was really helpful. You know, I started thinking about it. To me, the reason I was doing that is because even when, you know, I was in my addiction, I posted when I was in the gym, because it wasn't to like flaunt anything, but that's what would start keeping me sober in these little spots, because it held me accountable, because I was like, all right, if I'm posting it, other people are seeing it. So I need to like stay accountable. Right.
It's kind of like giving you a word, right?
Exactly.
And I got to live up to that, because I just gave my word.
Yeah.
Because that's integrity.
Yeah. And so that's what I started falling in love with, the process of just being very like out loud about like, yeah, I'm sober now, which is hard for, I think, a lot of people. You know, a lot of clients of mine, or just people that I've met now this year alone. It's like, that's their biggest fear, is being out loud about it. Almost like it's like an embarrassing thing to do. And so I started thinking on this. I was like, you know, all of these pieces that are hard for people, or what did I do differently, but I know that, you know, would have helped other people. So I started building these pillars that I call them. And like, fitness has always been the foundation for me, but I was like, all right, the isolation part, I can see how that doesn't help, because
excuse me,
you know, I started building this like community of people where like relying on one another. It's like they were screaming for help. But the second that you say, I want to be sober, I don't want to go do what the cool kids are doing, I don't want to do this anymore, all your friends, they disappear.
Sure.
And that's a big thing that people come to me about, is they're like, dude, I'm cool with getting sober, but I'm so scared of losing all my friends. And I started just getting into the mindsets of like, we need to build confidence in these people, because we're, you know, whether it's the food we're eating, the drugs we're doing, whatever it is, you know, the constant scrolling, I was like, men just are not being men anymore. And, you know, I'm consuming all this like Andrew Tate type content and stuff, but it was really empowering me, where I was like, wow, like, you know, and I've always been big into like testosterone and things too. And it's like, people have such low testosterone levels, and everything just seemed on such a decline.
To your point, men are not being men anymore. It's just a society. Society's has gotten soft throughout the years. Some for the better, because you can't be too hard either, right?
Yeah.
Too strong.
Fair.
You have to find that balance. But also, for yourself and other addicts, you could hear and listen and to other people and say, hey, you should do this, or hey, you should do that, hey, you should go into rehab, hey, you should this, really, you're a better person, da, 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 da. But nobody can help you. Am I right? Nobody can help you. You have to be the one to help yourself.
No one's coming to save you.
Nobody's coming to save you.
And nobody cares about your story, your life, like as much, you know, you're the one living with it, and it's like, no, truthfully, no one's coming to save you. You know, people can give you maybe a few tools that might help you, but at the end of the day, you have to want it. I mean, even fast forwarding to now, it's like a big thing. I've started telling people, like, are you at the rock bottom? Because like, if you don't want it, like, there's nothing I can do for you. There's no rehab that can help you. There's nothing that can help you.
You have to be the one to do it yourself.
And so it was crazy. I started putting these things together, and I was like, all right, well, community's a big thing. What if I gave people other people that, you know, they could vent to, relate to, but also we can hold them accountable, right? We can make sure that people started telling me that as I told my story, they were like, it's really important because you give off this alpha persona, but you're saying it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel. So they're like, you're going to resonate, you know? So I'm like using that as like, okay, well, let's pull people together where it's not unmanly to like say, you know, I feel this negative emotion, but how you react to it is what I think makes a man, right? That discipline of it. How you react to it is the most important part. Right. So like I teach a lot of my guys, when you're feeling a negative emotion, let's say it's, or even maybe you're thinking about relapse, don't sit here and beat yourself up. That doesn't mean you failed. Sit with it, process it, and how are we going to react to it?
Don't be a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Don't be a baby. Don't go in the corner and cry. You know what? Stand up.
Yeah. And I started finding my purpose, which was I felt like to serve others and, you know, use my experience, which I thought was a normal experience, but to a lot of people, you know, as I started talking about it more, I guess rehab has failed a lot of people. and they started reaching out and they feel hopeless, and they're like, how did you do it? Because, I've been in and out of rehab and programs 12, 15, 20 times and it's just not working. And so I found my purpose in that.
But you found a way.
Yeah.
That's even better.
Yeah.
For you. And
for me personally, yes.
Yeah, and other people were attracted to that too because they were going through the same thing that you were feeling, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I obviously they have success stories, right? Like even the worst of the worst rehabs, I'm sure it's helped people. And so that's my thing is I'm not sitting here, saying they don't work. It didn't work for me. I'm a very like straightforward. I need somebody to tell me like, hey, you're fucking up. Let's be accountable. Let's be a man, right? And I started like gaining that back. I started just leading men to that, where it's just a very like, you need to show up even when you don't want to. That's not how life works. Men don't move based off emotion. What are your principles? What makes Zach? What makes John? It's like, so for me, it's like, I go to the gym every day. You need to make them non-negotiables. You need to say, like, if somebody's like, hey, do you want to go do something that's pretty relevant? Like, hey, do you want to go to the candy store at 5:00? And you're like, I usually work out at 5:00. It's not, hey, let me move my gym time. Maybe I'll make it. It's, hey, no, I can't go. I go to the gym at this time. Because you can't operate in between, as yourself if you're not sticking to what makes you, you. Because the biggest problem I started running into that I saw with people is, hey, the abstinence isn't necessarily the hard part. It's after that, what do I do with myself? I'm sober now. But now what? And it's like, they're not excited. And so that's a big thing I'm trying to do is bring excitement to sobriety, because it doesn't have to be this, like, you're sitting here focused every day on,
and you don't want to fall off track.
Exactly. And also personally, I'm not a huge number guy. I'm not a huge, like, how many days have you been sober kind of guy. Because I never really started counting. Like, I know when I decided to get sober, but I didn't really count because I was magnetically being pulled towards this, like, all these, like, accomplishments and things. I started to, like, help people and have this purpose to where I completely forgot about, like, drinking and stuff. And it's been truly amazing, because that's what I want people to see, is that I feel like doing the work within and, like, really, really just looking yourself in the mirror and being like, it's time to be accountable. It's time to, like, I shifted my mindset from, because you have this victim mentality when you're, on drugs and alcohol all the time. So
it takes a strong person to reach inside themselves and say, I'm here because of me, right?
Yeah.
I'm here because of me.
Yeah.
I'm not here because of someone else. I'm here because of me. Listen, people could offer you drugs. They could offer you alcohol. It's up to you to say, yeah, okay, sure, no problem, right? Yeah. You don't have to take it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where I started shifting, because I was like, oh, I have all these, people inviting me here, asking me to do this, and, you blame them because they're around. That's not what it was. So I was like, what if I just took accountability for every single thing in my life? What if I just said everything was my fault? And that was, like, truly, like, a turning point where my life started getting exponentially better. Like, that was a big moment. I mean, I could be getting a haircut the other day and I was 5 minutes late to my haircut. Somebody walks in and the barber's still occupied with me because I was late. I voluntarily am just like, hey, this was my fault, by the way. I didn't have to do that. But to me, it's like, I am just, like, consumed with, like, hey, I'm taking accountability. And I think that probably resonates with people. Even in that small thing, he's like, wow, he didn't have to say that. That was kind of nice. But it's what keeps me on track, right? And I'm also, like, a believer in, like, shifting the addiction to where, like, we don't necessarily have to put so much pressure on not feeling like, I'm not addicted to this anymore, but, like, shifting it towards good habits. And that's the big problem that people come to me and they're like, I just don't know how to stay sober. And I'm like, well, you're not filling the buckets with positive, things to do. You're not going to the gym. You're not looking for, going to the church. You're not looking for good friends. You're not looking for new hobbies. And that's the big thing, is people lose their identity. And that's what I was rebuilding the whole time. And I didn't even realize, because I didn't know what foods I like to eat. I didn't know what I like to do for fun. I didn't even know what my music choice was.
Well, it's kind of like maybe someone could do the training, working out, go home, and shower, get ready, and go to the movies.
Mhm.
You know, if you
Yeah.
like movies, go to the movies. Enjoy the movies.
It's funny you say that, because that was my big thing is when I was like in my early stages, like the first couple months, I was like, every Friday night I'm just going to go to a movie.
Right?
You know what I mean? Because my thing is the FOMO from like 9 p.m. to like midnight is usually the hardest part for me. So I just stuck myself in a movie.
Yeah.
You know, I felt bad if I had my phone out. So there was no like, that's was like a little like kind of like hack that I was doing. And it's just going back to like the pool that I had, it was just, it was crazy the amount of certainty that I had in like what I was doing without even knowing it yet. And fast forwarding to like building, it's called the Straughn point, which is what I've put together as like the foundation of the pillars that I teach and like how I'm trying to mentor men and everything. But it's really funny because my story evolves. Like, I swear it's week by week, even at this point. There's so many things that start making sense that I had no idea. And I went on a podcast at like very, very early stages. I'd been sober for maybe 2 months, and it was a random dating podcast. I didn't even want to do it. Something was telling me to go do it. When I did it, there was a guy that was in the sitting area of it. I didn't even know there was a sitting area, but I'd been minorly open about how I was trying to be sober at that time. And he came over and he's like, "Hey, I run a sobriety podcast. I'm from Augusta, but I'm here in Dallas. Just like, it's tomorrow. Like, can you make it?" I was like, "Sure." And I went on there and I really liked speaking about it. But the funny thing is fast forward now, I had made a post on Instagram and he was like, "Hey, you should come on the podcast in January with this girl, Catherine." And I was like, "Okay." And it changed my like life forever. Like, everything started making more sense. We went to a donor lunch that he had for his nonprofit in Augusta, and that's where I had met her for the first time in person. And kind of cut like a long story short, it was like we had fallen in love like pretty much immediately. Everything, it was just, we were so aligned like on everything we were doing and the mission, and just like, and she's been sober a lot longer than I have, but at the same time, it just felt the most peaceful and just easy, and like everything was just like, it just made sense. It started clicking. And at that point too, everyone that was surrounding me in my life, it was really weird. They all were gravitating towards faith. Like, everyone around me, I had gone 6-7 years and I don't even know if I talked about God once. And now all of a sudden I had everybody around me. I mean, all the people that were coming into my program were all like talking to me about faith and stuff. And I was like, this isn't even like my thing. Like, what are we talking about here? And all my friends, and, you know, I would even have friends that I never expect. "Oh, hey, I recently started going to church." And it was like all around me. And I was like, what is happening? And so whenever I was driving up to that donor lunch, me and my business partner were like looking for a sign, because we were making a big step, like trying to figure out what direction to go in with the business. And we were on maybe a 9-hour drive. There's nothing out there from Tampa to Georgia. It was pitch black. We're doing the middle of the night. There was nothing there. No, you can't see any houses, nothing. And we could have prayed at any moment. And I told you, he recently just got religious, and he was like, "I think we should pray about it, the decision." And I was like, "Okay." And so he's praying about it. And not even 30 seconds after that, we look up, and I'm telling you, we're in the middle of nowhere. Haven't seen nothing in hours. There's a billboard that pops up. It says, "Are you ready to meet Jesus?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "I think you need to pray." I'd never prayed before. Like, I mean, maybe when I was like a little kid. For some reason, I didn't even think twice. I was just like, okay. And then it all just flowed out of me. Like, it wasn't even my words. Not even 30 seconds after that, huge cross was lit up, like right after that. And then nothing for 2 hours. And it was like, that could have happened at any moment. And that was my sign where I was like, shoot, like, this is crazy. And then that's when I decided to give my life to God. And it all started making sense where these gravitational pulls were coming from.
I like to think that God is always waiting.
Mm-hmm.
He's waiting for, if you have a difficult time in your life, he's there waiting. And he's there waiting for you to show you a better path.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, if you don't do it for yourself, no matter who it is.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just been incredible, because like when I tell you I wake up every week, like understanding more and more all of those pulls where it was me, myself, and I, and it was just saying, hey, just be confident, like in what I'm like. I didn't know where it was coming from, and it all started making sense. And then now, like being together with Catherine, which I think it's funny enough because she runs treatment centers, and so whenever I'd come out here for the first time and she's showing me them, I was mind blown, because Southern California treatment is so much different than everything that I was talking about. And I was like, wow, like, and to watch the way that she operates in her facilities and stuff, it's nice inviting homes. I mean, they've got stuff to do. She teaches them, hey, like she goes, hey, we need to go to the gym. It was everything that I was teaching, but it's like she was doing it in the facilities, and it was like I had lost kind of like
In the facility, is it the rooms? They have their own rooms and all that.
yeah, she won't take more than 6 people at a time because she wants the experience to be amazing.
Right.
And to where that's where the difference was.
The settings are much different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'd found like such a respect for her, because I was like, that was such an important thing to me. Is I had so much anger about it.
I would think by having a setting like that, is that you bring someone who has gone down to the bottom and said, look at how nice this is, right? You could have this too. You could have even more than this and better, right?
Yeah.
I think putting someone in an environment and a setting that's inviting, if you will,
Yeah.
is key. Is key.
Yeah. And so everything just coming full circle. It's just crazy that she does what she does, and it was like the thing that I was so angry about, and it's just put like such a piece. That's what I mean, is like all the dots just have been like connecting, and it's so fascinating to see. Because at first when I did hear she was running treatment centers, I was kind of like, all right, this is probably not going to work. I don't even know if she knows that, but I thought maybe this wasn't going to work because it was like everything I had resented so much. But even like,
Well, you had a bad experience at a treatment center that just was more like prison than a home.
Yeah. And so to find out that she like embodies everything that I did and was, giving that back to people through hers, it was like the most incredible thing for me to see. And also she's just played such a big part in my life already, because even with my, newfound faith is like what I would call it. I got baptized here a couple weeks ago, with her, and she is like been teaching me so much more than like because like if I had found my faith but I didn't find her, it would be a very like, all right, I guess I'm supposed to go to church on Sunday. I don't really know how this thing goes. And so she's kind of mentored me in a way where it's like every morning.
I grew up a Catholic, and one of the first things you do as a kid is your mother's kicking you out the door to go to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, Mom. And I'll be honest with you, I hated it. As a kid, yeah. I hated it. She'd give me money to put it in the confession box and all that and everything, and I would skip church, and I'd use that money and go buy a donut and eat the donut.
Yeah.
When church was over, I'd go back, oh yeah, church was great, Ma.
That's funny. But I think that's been one of the biggest blessings too, is that she's mentored me in a way of like, when we wake up, immediately we pray, hey, here's the Bible. We have to read, these excerpts every single day. These are the non-negotiables, and it's feeding into exactly like what I was looking for, of like what makes, me, what are those, pillars. And it's like, I found out what it really looks like to have faith. And it's like learning that, actually surrendering to God and actually giving him, full control over, like, it brings so much peace to your mind just to know that like, hey, God's plan, it's, he moves through me. It's whatever he wants to do. And, use me as you want to. I'm not in control, and this money's not mine. The house isn't mine. The cars are mine. Like, none of that's mine. I would have never have learned any of that if it wasn't for her. I probably would have just been like, okay, cool. I had this, cool experience where I found God, but now I go to church. I might even forget about it down the road. So like really being able to build that relationship has been huge. Because also too, playing on top of everything that helped me get sober, now with this faith, and now with like this amazing woman, and now it makes me want to be a better man, and everything is coming together at the right time.
Those structural blocks, if you will, all those structural blocks that you had put together, is making you even stronger.
Yeah, and it's it makes you realize like everything that I had went through, prior relationships or trauma or screw ups, whatever it's money, whatever it was, wrecking my car, just all those bad things. It taught me something so that now I could be the person that I need to be when I met my match. You know what I mean? Otherwise I could have screwed that up.
I would say a lot of times, something that you think is, stressful or whatever is really not that stressful, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, we walk through our path in life, and you turn around and you say, why did I get so upset about that? Why did I feel lousy about that? When it's really not that big of a deal,
It's
right?
not, yeah.
Right?
Exactly. There's a piece behind not stressing about the little things anymore, and just really like not giving other people your energy or just those small things, because really it sucks the energy out of you,
Yeah,
and it's just
sure.
now you're irritable maybe the rest of the day at other stuff.
And you have physically and mentally. Mentally, you're in a fog. You're not happy, right? But if you just take all the minutia and just push it away and say, I don't need that. I'm not accepting that.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. And I feel like too, like throughout my journey, the more that I've given to people too, and the more that I've invested in other people, and just like really given my time and like trying to be a better person, because I never was when I was an addict. Like, I mean, I'm still an addict, but just like, you know what I mean?
A huge fulfillment for you now.
Yeah. And it's just like, I really want to give back to as many people as I can. And I really feel like God put us in each other's lives, because I just feel like the impact that we can make is truly incredible. But this is what I mean by like things are changing by the week. Cause I feel like, she had asked me like, what is your purpose? And if you would have asked me that 6 months ago, it was just to like, I want to help people get sober, but I didn't really know what it meant. And then it was, okay, but now it's developed all the way into this thing of like, not only do I want to teach men how to be men and show up, but like now I find a thorough like enjoyment in being like the best partner that I can be to her, and like teaching them how to do that too, because I feel like being the best partner you can be in a relationship, having a relationship with God to like an actual like super deep level, and sticking to your pillars of fitness, and like going out and like being good to people. Those are all the foundational things that you need to do if you want to live like a life that you're like, dang, how do I get there?
So you've helped people already, obviously. So the satisfaction in that alone is seeing someone that has been, rock bottom. You must be, and then had come up and changed your life around to a point where they're striving immensely.
Yeah.
Very well. That fulfillment alone for you must be huge.
Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't change it for the world. It's the most fulfilling thing I've ever felt. I never thought I'd get here. One of the biggest things that like has stuck out to me is whenever Charlie Kirk passed away, and I was watching one of his speeches, and he talks about how we are commanded by God to be on this earth to give and to risk and to, invest in people, and, take things like this and sow it into others so that they can go do good. And that's how the society is uplifted as a whole, is to take, all these things and go sow that into society. And that's been really important, because I see it even now in a lot of my like clients that I mentor, just friends that have talked to me, where, they're taking it, they're fixing themselves, but now they're going, and like I have one that goes and feeds the homeless.
So just fill me in on the mentoring that you do. What is your philosophy?
So like how I structure like what I do?
Yes.
So what I do is pretty much, once somebody decides that they want me to mentor them in this like way, we do an onboarding call. I like to get a very like in-depth knowledge of like how your schedule works, how your routines work. When are your tendencies to like eat or go to the gym or do all these different things? Or if you're even not going to the gym at all, who do you hang out with? Where do you feel like, you have the biggest impulses? Like I try to really get a deep understanding of like what their environment looks like and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, so that I can kind of find where their triggers are. And I try to build the structure for them to where like, it's almost like realigning the direction of like, instead of thinking so much on, okay, I need to be sober today. I'm trying to stay sober. I got to stay sober today. It's realigning those times in their day into something purposeful or into something positive. Instead of trying to like just completely squish like the addiction, like gene, I guess you would say. and just, hey, let's retarget this to something good. So I don't, whether you want to go be obsessed with the gym or whatever. But I think just using my story and using like a lot of the clients that I've had success with, like getting into the gym is step one. Like I think, going in there, and building the confidence from inside out of just the discipline and, the routine of it. And then also, like, obviously, you feel healthy, you're obviously going to feel better.
You're feeling clean, you're feeling clear-headed. Yeah.
And then I will bring them into, I have like different communities that we, invite them into to kind of show them, there are people out there, struggling just like you. We all are wanting to be surrounded by like-minded people, because there are people that have said enough is enough. There's a group out there. You feel so isolated, like, oh, it's just me, you know what I mean? Everybody's having this great life, or everybody's fine, and it's just me that feels lost. And so, putting them around others that are like, hey, dude, I was right where you were. Like, I hated myself too. And, but I still do have moments where, I feel those negative emotions. And so it's better to go to people that all understand each other, but are also going to say, hey, it's okay to feel that way, but what are we going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And that's, what we're trying to teach them is it's okay to have those emotions, but just sit there, process it, and react to it, and like build the pillars of like what, makes you you, and also like how you're supposed to move through life as a man. And then I do things like, as far as, because purpose is such a big thing, like we were talking about, like it's very fulfilling to me. I figure out, a couple times a week we get on calls, and I'm like, what gets you out of bed in the morning? I don't care if it was a childhood dream from when you were like 5, and really just empowering them that you can do anything you want. Because like I said, I was just a normal person. Like, I mean, I'm just a normal guy, and it's like the momentum of just stacking wins, like you start building the confidence and you realize you can achieve anything you want. You just have to go do it. Stop thinking about it and just go, yes. You start seeing the doors of opportunity. But I think a lot of people just need somebody in their corner to like.
Well, it's important.
Yeah.
It's important who you have in your corner all the time.
Yeah.
I say that all the time because I was a boxer growing up, and I still trained fighters and stuff like that. And I always say it's always most important in who's in your corner, because that person who's in your corner that that's good at what they do is helping you and guiding you in the right direction, and making sure that you're going to succeed.
Yeah. And I think that it resonates a lot more with people when it's a more personal, you get to know these people, and then when you're the one telling them like, hey, if your friends can't handle you sober, then maybe they're not the friends for you, right?
Sure.
But when it's somebody that you are gaining like a personal relationship with telling you that, but also if they're looking to me as a mentor and a role model, it resonates a lot more and gives them more confidence to make those hard decisions, versus like, hey, I saw some famous guy on TV that said, getting sober, go find some sober friends.
So it's amazing that you found your way. Mm-hmm. And what you're doing now, and helping so many people, and being such a great mentor. I want to thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I mean, I love hearing these stories. I love successful things when you've been at rock bottom. I love them. Before we leave and close, what is the best advice that you could give somebody in life?
I think it's a lot of like what I've been hitting on. The best advice I think is it's okay to feel negative emotion, and you can't have the good without the bad. And I just think it's very, very important to be self-aware of when you are feeling down, and to look at it as like that. Like, you can't have, light without dark, there's two sides to it, but just sit with it and maybe look yourself in the mirror and think, why am I feeling this way? Have I done everything that I need to do today? Like that I said I was going to do? That's a big thing, because a lot of people don't realize that if you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, it takes a mental tear on you, whether you're realizing it or not. And that's where you're slowly breaking down and losing confidence, and, you're losing yourself.
Sure.
So I think just the way you sit there, analyze, like, why am I feeling sad, mad? Why am I angry? Why am I resentful? Whatever it is. Take accountability, and the way you react from it I think is just where the true growth starts to happen.
Well, it sounds like a tremendous advice to me. Zach, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate
It's
it.
been a pleasure, and I hope that you help so many more.
Yeah.
I know you will.
Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome,
appreciate
Zach.
it.